if you like Project Hail Mary, you love these movies. This is the last picture with Rahim Khan, and I thought, in honor of the Ryan Gosling film, I compiled a list, a very specific list of movies that are similar in theme. Because I mean, if you were to just say best space movies, then that's just it's far too much. But to narrow down that list to just films that are space based and are attempts rescuing or saving humanity. So it's a narrow list, but it is films that are thematically very very similar to Project Hail Mary. Of course, I've seen the movie two times already now. I'm sure you guys have as well. May even see it a third time. Have reviewed it. So far, for me, one of the best movies of the year. But there are a couple of other movies I feel that are in the same vein, in the same spirit. And so, not an extensive list, but just a handful or less than a handful, and that's three. The three movies are, of course, Sunshine, Interstellar, and Ad Astra. Let's start off with Sunshine. I think Sunshine is a sibling or a cousin to Project Hail Mary because the premise is very similar. The sun is dying, and a team of astronauts is sent out to revive the sun. The film released in 2007, and 2007. Yeah. 2007, directed by Danny Boyle with a script from Alex Garland. Of course, these two have worked previously on 28 Days Later. They most recently worked on 28 Years Later. Danny Boyle has had quite the career, and Alex Garland, who started off as a novelist, then, of course, scriptwriter, and now he's a director in his own right with some fantastic movies under his belt. So, I mean, both of these guys have had legit careers, and I feel that this their second collaboration together is like two-thirds perfect, but unfortunately, it is undone by its finale. Okay, so it's an all-star cast: Ian Murphy, Chris Evans, Hiroki Sanada, Michelle Yeoh, Rose Byrne, Benedict Wong. And that guy. I'm sorry, I forget the comms officer's name, and Mark Strong, and they're astronauts went out with and okay. So there isn't. What's really interesting about this movie, I mean, besides everything else that I'm going to talk about, is that around the time there was a website even for this film, and they did, something that I perhaps is with the arts and the advent of the internet age and all of that stuff. They had sort of character bios and sort of back history as to what happened. So apparently, the sun has been innervated by a cue ball. I don't know what that is. Please go and look it up on Wikipedia or Google. And the sun has slowly been dimming, and humanity, of course, faces extinction. Their solution to this is to literally drop a bomb in the sun, a stellar bomb, a nuclear bomb the size of Manhattan, and hopefully reignite our star. Now, the first mission to Icarus 1, the first mission to the sun, for some reason or the other, under mysterious circumstances, failed. So now this is Icarus 2. Cillian Murphy plays Kappa, who is the bomb specialist. Hiroki Sanada is the captain or lead. And everyone else, like, for example, Chris Evans is the engineer. Rose Byrne is, I don't know, I don't know what she is. Benedict Wong is like, this math whiz, a child prodigy. Michelle Yeoh is responsible for, like, the oxygen farm. Really good. What I think instantly hits you about this movie is the tone, but then the I don't want to say the stark nature, but I mean, there's so much about this movie that is distinct visually, um, sonically. There's this. I feel that with this script and with this film, the filmmakers were looking at a an existential threat. Number one. Two, they were looking at the effect, the psychological effect of what a long term mission in space, where you're confined essentially to this cube, and all you have are your shipmates, your crewmates, and you have the weight of the world on you, number one. But then there is this profound isolation, loneliness. And, it explores those things because we meet these characters, I think, almost a couple of years into their mission, and they're nearing the sun, and tempers are fraying. Sevens, Chris Evans's mace, and what's it called, Killian Murphy's kappa. They don't get along too well. Um, the psychologist played by Cliff Curtis, he is well, he's a psychologist, and he should be perhaps, the sanest on board. But he's taken to going to this viewing room that they have when they can actually sort of, not well directly observe the sun behind a filter, otherwise they'd fry. And he's just taking it in. And during the course of the movie, he's slowly getting sunburned beyond, uh, you know, recognition. Uh, Visually, now the ship design, the what's it called, the spacesuits, uh, everything about this really, I mean, took a departure from your standard science fiction movies. I mean, the last time, and I think they deserve this credit. I think the last time it was so distinctive, at least to me, was like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it's not your typical like sort of NASA design, where they've really taken, you know, creative leap. And so you get this almost like ramrod spaceship, which has this gigantic shield in front of it, which is just composed of all of these solar panels. Behind that is strapped the bomb, and then behind that is, of course, the ship itself, the Icarus. Um, so there was that. There is music. The score is fantastic. It's by Underworld, the British band, and again, very distinctive. Um, and there's there's a couple of the tunes in it that really stand out, but the one that I really liked is I'm going to post it somewhere. I'll find the exact name or even play it. Really good. Really is as moving as the one that Brian Eno did for the documentary For All Mankind. Um, okay, now where I said that the movie is near perfect is that, there they are going on their mission. Along the way, they discover that the Icarus One has been hiding in plain sight, and so Cillian Murphy's character Kappa decides that maybe we should uh, detour and sort of, if possible, of course, uncover the fate of the first crew. But then also you get a second bomb. So, two chances are better than one. There is opposition, for example, from Mace. And but the crew, of course, decide on doing it. There is a mistake, a snafu by Benedict Wong's character, and they have to do an EVA. Kappa and Ryoki Sanada's character, and he unfortunately ends up dying. And it's this scene where so he ends up like frying, like being burnt to a crisp. But in those last moments, Cliff Curtis is on the radio with him, and he's like, "What do you see?" Because the movie in this, I mean, there is no enemy as such. This movie is about literally man combating nature. It is his attempts at staving off extinction. And the sun, as source of energy, as this primordial force of nature, almost has like, sound to it. It's like this rushing, this roar, and the sweep of that solar energy across. It's just like really powerful. Uh, so the reason why I'm saying all of this is that until this point, great, the movie's doing really good. They then, of course, get to the Icarus 2. They find out, you know, apparently they all suicided themselves, the Icarus 1 crew, because they felt that maybe man should not uh, fight his own extinction, that maybe this is the end and they should accept it. Now, this is where the movie goes into this slasher film territory, which I was wholly philosophically opposed to. The captain of the first ship, it's still somehow alive on that one. He's played by Mark Strong. Suntanned, sunburnt, um, to the point where he looks like, bacon. And he's walking around naked on that ship. Like, what, waiting for Icarus 2 to come? That's a bit of a plot hole. Um, he makes it onto Icarus 1, blows the airlock so that, in them trying to make their way back, they lose another guy. And then he sabotages this ship and the mission, kills a bunch of people. Again, it turns into a slasher movie. And that's where this movie kind of goes off the rails. Because for a movie that is intelligent, that is introspective, that was genuinely something you hadn't seen before, it just completely is undone by this latter half, the last like 20-25 minutes of the movie. And that's such a shame. That's a real shame. Because, as I said, the movie is near perfect. I have to take a moment to applaud my MVP in this movie, and that is Chris Evans's character Mace. If you've ever read about the astronauts from the Gemini and Apollo era, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo era, the right stuff generation. So, like, all of them came largely from the military. They then went on to this and sort of guided by wonder, exploration, patriotism. They got into the astronaut program and, they became astronauts. Like, they were these guys, the ultimate professionals, cool, calm, mission oriented, always focused. And that's what Mace's character is. And I love him in this. Chris Evans, I mean, yeah, he's Cap for all of us, but I really liked him in this movie. And his sacrifice at the end really speaks to, again, the role that was written for him and the actor. So, great movie, 2007's. Uh, what's it called? Sunshine. The next movie, and this is an obvious one, of course, and that is Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. Uh, I remember the first time I watched this movie, I didn't like it. I thought it was like a mishmash. It was like derivative of so many movies that came before. There were elements of like 2001: A Space Odyssey. It was, like sort of a pop sci-fi, and by pop sci-fi I mean like, it's sort of the kind of science fiction that we've read about, like a bit of, and it almost felt like sort of a Spielberg movie, which is interesting because Christopher Nolan's brother Jonathan, the American one, he what's it called, wrote this script back in 2007. And I think Spielberg wanted to make this, but I don't know, maybe he passed on it or he was working on something else. It then fell back into Christopher Nolan's lap and he decided to make it. Came out in 2014, starred Matthew McConaughey, Jessica Chastain, um, um, what's that, her name? Anne Hathaway, a very young Timothy Chalamet, Matt Damon. I wasn't expecting that one. Okay, but the reason why I started off with this is I honestly didn't like the movie first time around. Second time around, it still didn't really work for me. But subsequently, over the years, I have like rewatched this movie, and it's now I'm warming up to it. And it's kind of yeah, it's endeared itself to me. I like it. I like a lot of elements about it. Um, and but there's still, I mean, sort of some things I take issue with. Uh, but yeah, it does. For me, it's not my favorite Nolan movie. I mean, for me, I think my favorite Nolan movies are like Tenet and Prestige. But I appreciate it. I like it. And yeah, there's a couple of really standout scenes in this movie. I really like them. Okay. So again, it fits the criteria of my list because this is a humanity that is facing ecological disaster. The what's it called? Food chain. It's facing imminent threat. There's like this whole new, 1930s Dust Bowl type scenario where they just can't grow crops. People are, they don't know what to do. Governments are now taking astronauts off the line, Matthew McConaughey's character, and just getting them to farm because right now the most important thing is food security. In steps in, NASA has become this almost forgotten organization, but they have a Hail Mary. They have this one last play, and that comes in the form of what they've observed, a wormhole opening up somewhere around Saturn. And so they decide to send a mission. Matthew McConaughey's Cooper, he goes up, he learns that other missions have been sent, and this may be humanity's really last chance because they don't know what might be at the end of that wormhole, but it's certainly been placed there to be explored, and so here goes anything. Um, You remember when I was watching in the cinema, and this was a complaint that I had. I think many people had this complaint later on about the sound design of this movie, because I remember that one scene, the scene where he actually launches, and you have that. I'm forgetting the name of the poet who Dylan, which one? It wasn't not Bob Dylan, but one of those guys. Somebody, I'm forgetting the name of the poet, but it's that poem, don't go quiet into the dying light, or that one. And sort of there you have launch, and there's also what's called Hans Zimmer score on top of it. I remember watching that in the cinema. I was like, you can't shoot action for shit, Nolan. At least fix your audio, fix your sound. Um, Very impressive visuals in the film. When they're passing by Saturn, where they're going through the wormhole, the black hole itself, which has gone on to inspire like sort of every, black hole we've seen. I mean, remember in Fantastic Four, last year's Fantastic Four, 2024's Fantastic Four, 2025's Fantastic Four, like exactly the same design. Then you had that sort of the water planet, then you had the ice planet, then you had, of course, the cathedral. So really impressive visuals in this. Hans Zimmer, of course, does not disappoint. And this was that whole wave that Matthew McConaughey was riding, the reconnaissance. There was True Detective, then this movie came out, then there was that Drugstore Cowboy? No, whatever that movie he won the Oscar for. This was like, a pretty good period for this guy. Um, Fundamentally, I think what my problem with this film was is that, at the end, I mean, when he does get to that sort of four-dimensional place, and, the entire linchpin of the Enterprise, the entire linchpin of this thing is that, you know, for humanity to survive, they have to leave the planet Earth. The Earth is dead or dying. There's no saving it. Humanity must now sort of spread out um, into the stars, and they must find a new home. And in order to do that, they need to discover, I don't know, the gravitational constant or gravity or something like that. They must sort of defy gravity. But along with that, as a universal constant, but along with that, they also introduce this whole thing of love being a whole universal like thing. It transcends time and space. And that was just like so hokey. I was like, come on, man. I mean, for a film that is largely hard sci-fi, I don't want to sound like a blood and iron type, but love has no place in this movie. It was cool that they kind of, they established that the wormhole, those who are helping humanity are future humans, humans who have evolved to a point where now they are sort of like, the lords of space and time. And it is them helping their past selves, you know, save save humanity. So that was, I like that. I like that. It's a concept I've seen like even recently. Remember with Pantheon, great show. And for those of you who haven't seen it, a spoiler, but like how again humanity is able to save itself by that computer program evolving to a point where they've become like godlike. Cool, I like that. For me, I think it was just that one bit really kind of like sucked for me. This whole love aspect. Matt Damon's thing was interesting. It was a shame they didn't get to use like Wes Bentley more. Then you had that other character. What was his name? Let me see. It must be somewhere here. Not Brand. Romilly. He's like the Michael Collins of this mission because he stays up. When they go down to that planet, the water one, and they're there for like what, like an hour or something like that, and he's like spent like a couple of decades up there, and they come back and he's like all gray and old, poor thing, and then he gets blown up thanks to Matt Damon. Um, and well, another thing that I kind of found irritating about Matthew McConaughey's character is that, yeah, I get it. You love your kids, right? And he's just like spread, and he's always like, "Oh no, 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 my kids come first. My kids come first." Matt Damon's character turns out to be like a real piece of shit. So it goes really against, like, for example, like the guy I just spoke about, like Mace's character in Sunshine, where these astronauts are just so, they're cut from a different cloth. And for them, I mean, sacrificing for the greater good or just being, and it's not like they're not human and that you wouldn't expect like a father or even a person like, to, think of their own family or self-preservation or have that or have that instinct. But these were real people, the Neil Armstrongs, the Buzz Aldrins, the, what was that guy? Frank. I hate forgetting these guys' names, but just all of these guys. Um, they too had families back home, and I mean, they were embarking into the unknown, and they didn't know whether they'd survive or live, but they went ahead and did it. Um, so I found these things a little. I think even Neil deGrasse Tyson had this problem with the movie. I don't think the characters were really well written, or at least they were made too human. Speaking of course, being too human, for me, the MVP in these movies are, of course, cars. Wait. I need to, wait. Cars and Interstellar. I'm forgetting Interstellar. Cars and Case. I remember. Now, I spoke about the production design in Sunshine, but in this, I remember seeing the robots for the first time. I was like, what the fuck are those things? I mean, of all of the robots that you could conceive, from Danger Will Robinson, Lost in Space, HAL 9000, I don't know, let's think of some other, I mean, space robots. What else? What else? What else? So, like, C3PO or R2D2 or any of these come up essentially with like this Lego brick or like a block of Lego. What is this? They're so stupid looking. Then they start showing off, like, the functionality of these things. Like, they're modular, they're able to do practically anything. They have, I mean, their AI at least isn't your typical subservient type AI. Like, there's machine learning going on where they're able to develop personalities. And Tars and Case both have, like, very interesting personalities. I loved, what's it called? Former US Marine tactical robot. Yeah. But the fact that these things were developed for, like, remember on, okay, so they're able to, like, fly ship. They're able to, like, insert themselves like a transformer into, like, ships and sort of fly them, right? But then they're also able to turn into, like, these cartwheels and extend their hands. I love the design. I don't know who came up with it. Um, I need to research this more. But whoever came up with the design for these robots was inspired. Absolutely love them. And for me, the best scene in this movie is the one where, what's it called? Um, and of course, it's thanks to Hans Zimmer. This is, of course, when they've realized, that Matt Damon piece of shit character, he's, like, damaged their ship. And in order to figure stuff out, they now have to, like, what's it called? I don't know, break the, well, whatever. It's just like they have to, this ship has to go somewhere else. But then they also have to figure out how to send, like, they have to drop a probe into the black hole itself and send back the information. And in order to do that, Matthew McConaughey has to sacrifice himself. So I remember that one scene where, they're spinning and they're doing all of that stuff. And first of all, they send, he sends Case, and he's like, "See you on the other side, Slick." Man, that scene really hit me because I really love when there's that bond between sort of robot and human. And I just love the robots in this. MVPs for me. So, yeah, that's Interstellar for you. Now, the next one, again, really good movie. And I'm glad that this list that I've compiled, and I can pat myself on the back for this one, are generally really, really good movies. And this is, of course, 2019's Ad Astra, starring, what's his name? Brad Pitt, Donald Sutherland, Ruth Negga, and of course Tommy Lee Jones and Liv Tyler. Thomas, written and directed by James Gray, the guy who did The Lost City of Z. Yeah, okay. Another movie that comes with this very distinct look at space and sort of, like, for example, the Apple TV show For All Mankind, like, sort of extrapolating. Like, for example, what if the space race did not end? So, like, let's take technologies from around, like, maybe the 1980s, 1990s, like, the orange jumpsuits, the shuttle program, potential, like, orbiting space platforms, what's it called? Elevators. Let's take those and just run with it, and also militarize space and colonize the moon. And let's see what we can do with it. So essentially, it's based on that, where the space race never ended. And, having just started watching season 5 of For All Mankind, it really hurt to see the potential leaps and bounds we could have made as a species. If we had just, like, focused on stuff like that rather than all this other shit we've been up to. Because, and this is a bit of an aside, but it sucks that while you have war in the Middle East, you have astronauts heading out, on Artemis to the moon. You know, that's such a contrast. And I think a failure of us as a species that, we're capable of such great stuff. And then here we are sort of dying in the muck. Okay, sorry. Right. So the movie opens up with Earth again at risk of, sort of disaster, because apparently from somewhere in deep space there are these, um I'm not going to call them, they're these pulses or waves. I'm forgetting the exact things, what's exactly happening. Yeah, that are unfortunately wrecking, like, sort of Earth. They're causing power outages and EMPs and all of that stuff. Is some weird stuff is going on. They discover that the potential source of these, it's somewhere out on towards Neptune, and it might be the last known location of Tommy Lee Jones, who is a celebrated, almost legendary, what's it called, astronaut by the name of Cliff McBride, who, is a hallowed name in the program, and he led this mission, um, to discover sort of extraterrestrial life. And that would, of course, take him and his ship far beyond the reach of, sort of going over, into interstellar space. The mission was lost many years ago. They lost contact with it, and left to carry the burden of an absentee father, but then also living in his shadow is his son, who is also an astronaut, played by Brad Pitt, Roy McBride. Interesting one. This is an interesting one, because, um, it's a really muted performance from Brad Pitt. It's a muted performance from Brad Pitt, because I think that around this time, he was definitely going through. I was gonna say shit, but definitely going through stuff. There was all of that stuff with his personal life, his alcoholism, being estranged from his family. So I can really see a lot of that stuff, like, being channeled into this role. Because despite being a high functioning professional, a member of this universe's version of, like, the US Space Force, an astronaut, he really has a lot of, inner demons. He has a lot of stuff to contend with. A failed relationship with Liv Tyler, this father who he revered but was never there for him. And so he is now tasked to contact his father, and sort of figure out if the father is responsible for what's going on. They set about on their mission, where they first must make it to the moon. The moon has now been colonized. Each, like, country has claimed a stake, in it, and in between these colonies, it's the Wild West, or piracy abounds, because, this is America and this is China. This is all sort of international waters, so to speak. So there are pirates. And, again, the conception of what, like, taking the kind of, lunar rovers they had, that design, it's really cool to see that stuff, because they got to do that, I think, on Apollo 17, where you saw that design, and you see it here as well. So there's that. They then make their way towards Mars. And, I really liked another aspect of this, which, if you had seen earlier in 2017, when you had Blade Runner 2, that was 2017, yeah. Blade Runner 2049, those constant, sort of psychological, like, check-ins that, Agent K has to do. So they have to do that here again. How sort of psychology is now, it's gone beyond, you know a couch and a psychotherapist or a psychologist, and it's become this standard for, measuring your performance, your effectiveness, your loyalty. Really good, and, kind of worrying, because you might even see that in the future. There's Mars for you. It's also been colonized, and, you know, the Red Planet, it lives up to its name. Really quite beautiful how they depict those scenes. But then also, like, I like how this is this. The reason why I'm doing this is, yeah, because I remember the last time I used this phrase, I used it incorrectly. So it's not Roman Fluve, it's a picaresque, where you have like this central character taking a tour or like sort of guiding us, exploring it. It's like sort of taking us on this journey. And that's what it is. Because, I mean, sort of Brad Pitt's journey in this movie is inexorably towards his father because he will finally meet him. There will be this reckoning, but along the way, he sort of shows us what the future may look like. And I really like that aspect of this movie. You have these, you have Earth, it's kind of doing okay. There's the moon. Then, like, there's this sort of maverick science going on where they encounter those monkeys out somewhere, sort of in space. Then you've got Mars. There's, this militarization. There's like, taking Reagan's Star Wars and just running with that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I really like these aspects of the movie. There's a lot of thought that went into it on James Gray part. And finally, of course, there is that confrontation. There is that meeting. Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones, they finally meet. And his character, Tommy Lee Jones, Cliff McBride, is so hell bent on discovering life when his crewmate, when his shipmates realize that perhaps it's a fool's errand and they would like to turn back and he faces a mutiny. There's then this, he kind of takes matters into his own hands. And wait, if you shoot him, I don't know if he kills them all, but something happens and they end up. Well, the rest of the crew end up dying, and it's just him, this lonely old man, manning his ship and using it to, the instruments that, the telescopes and all of that stuff on it, using it to, document, you know, survey all of these other planets. So there is, have to quickly, the Lima projects, antimatter meltdown. Yeah, quite the subject matter. Prepare a strained father-son relationship with this odyssey through space. There's almost something Greek-like in it. There's this Greek tragedy lurking in this movie. And that is, I think, this substrate upon which James Gray has built this hard sci-fi movie. Really, really good. And it's kind of crushing when Emily Jones's character admits to um, what's it called? Brad Pitt, that, family, even his, his wife, his son, those things didn't really matter to him. Even Earth didn't matter to him. As an Austrian astronaut, his life was space, his life was the stars. And I think that's the legacy that he wanted to have. Um, he does, you know, end the threat, these pulses that are coming from the ship because the father dies, and he does make it back to Earth. With, I think, this resolve to, because now he's finally, that chip is off his shoulder, um, in order to, I think, realize himself, in order to become fully actualized as a man, he must proverbially kill his father. And that does happen. And so he comes back and, tries to rekindle his relationship with Liv Tyler. Lovely movie. I really liked it. It doesn't have like sort of the pomp um, or the thrills of something like Interstellar, but it's still really, really good. Great film. So that's Ad Astra for you. Now, of course, in ending, you may say, why didn't I include? Because again, these are like, space-based missions to save humanity. So why didn't I include films like Armageddon and Deep Impact? Because I think those movies are very, very specifically asteroid movies. So I think I'll maybe, do one of those later on. But for now, that's it. Thank you very much.